Hello, everybody. I have not been on a live video in some time now. And in fact, I'm going to go back to my YouTube channel here to make sure we are actually streaming because when I use, okay, yeah, when I use this, it doesn't always do what I think it should. It gets a little confusing sometimes. So anyway, today we're talking about something very different. You know, in my Supernatural Entrepreneur series, I talk quite a bit about the behind the scenes supernatural stuff, God's process and all that kind of thing that He requires us to go through, the process of becoming all that we're supposed to do. And I focus very much on the supernatural. Well, there's two parts of it. There's supposed to be the supernatural and there's supposed to be the business side, or I'll say the professional skills side. And most of the time, because of the process God put me in, I end up spending most of my focus on the supernatural side. But God has shown me many times in the past, including in dreams, that I have to focus everything. So now you see the image behind me here. If I just get out of the way like that, you can see. We're going to talk a little about flying today for real. And I'm going to show you a couple of my little flying videos I made this past year, um, which I have in a different YouTube channel. Not too much. I'm not trying to get a big followership there. And there's a lot of people out there that do a much better video series with that kind of thing than I do so far. But I just want to show you things I have been doing. Reminder up front, the process God put me in, I have no money of my own to do any of this. It's all been paid for by other people. In one case, I went for a ride with a friend who paid for the whole trip. And I kind of sat there in the front seat being not sort of a co-pilot, sort of. And in the other case, I've been a student. Actually, if I show that one, um, I might show that one where I was actually the guy flying the airplane, if I think of it. And actually, let me just go there and try to find it now while we're talking. And also, I do a lot of simulator work because simulator time is the cost-effective way of here it is, the cost-effective way of maintaining pilot skills without actually needing to pay for anything. Not pay for anything, without actually the need to spend a ton of money on flying. Okay, there, I'm not doing two things at once anymore. So I'm going to start off with that one. I'll start off with the flight where I was actually doing it on. I was in a check ride, and I had to renew my instrument flight currency skills, which means instrument flying is when you're in the clouds, you can't see where you're going. You have to rely strictly on what's in front of you on the instrument panel. And that very maintenance intensive. In other words, if you don't do that kind of flying much, you're going to get yourself in a ton of trouble. You could very easily crash. And there have been a number of cases where people crash doing that. So it's a lot of work to keep up with, a lot of work. As of today, right now, I've been most of the time spending my effort on flying in the simulator, which is an FAA approved simulator. It's good for actually, the FAA allows you to log time and they allow you to use it for maintaining your proficiency. However, there's a big difference between flying a simulator where things aren't moving around you and you can't just hit the pause button and you're not having to deal with air traffic control and all kinds of other factors versus flying the real thing where you do have to deal with all that. There's a big difference. So being able to be proficient doing, say, for instance, instrument procedures in a simulator is not the same as doing it in real life in a real airplane. So they allow you to maintain your proficiency, but that doesn't mean you're safe at all. So there's a big difference between proficiency and safety. Um, so I recognize where I'm at. God has only given me the ability, using other people's money, which I wish it wasn't that way. It really bugs me to no end. It's very aggravating, to be honest, for everything. Very aggravating. But he's given me the ability to do that, not necessarily do all the flying part yet. Well, I'll tell you what, I walked away from it for 14 years. I didn't necessarily know that God was going to have me come back to it again. And when I walked away from it, I kind of made a hard break and just dumped everything in my mind that I had spent years accumulating. Yeah, I was even an instructor for a while. I'm not now, but I was. And I have actual experience, 500 hours in the air teaching private pilot students, not instrument, just private pilot. So how about we just hop over here and I'll show you the first video and maybe I'll talk through it, because you got to see that this is kind of a real skill set or a real balancing act that isn't always so easy to do. So here we go. And it is getting me talking. Good. Okay, so let's play the video. It is playing. That was me flying about a year ago. Flying above the clouds, as you can see, which is instrument conditions, because you can't see the ground. It's actually visual conditions, but it's on an instrument flight. Yeah, so it's actually visual, but when you can't see the ground, you have to navigate using something, and that requires all the use of the instruments. So I did come back and do actual instrument landings at a nearby airport, where I could not see the airport until I was established on final approach. Because it started off with clouds. So that was my check ride for regaining all my instrument proficiency, so I could say that I was back to normal instrument pilot privileges again with the FAA. And you can see that was me flying with that. It was a perfect day. Unbelievable. Perfect for a check ride. Okay, me again. There's a little airplane, a little bit of it. Can't really see it too well. And again, my instructor on the right there. And that was the airplane we flew in, a Diamond DA-40. It's actually made in Austria. Nice little airplane. I'll show you a different one that I flew next after this. But yeah, that's the walk-up. When I had to change airplanes, same type, but different tail number. And so, so my check ride is actually in two parts. I flew out to one airport. We picked this one up and then got back in and flew back to the home base airport. You can see all my stuff there. Okay, so now we're inbound on the Okay, now that was a simulator. This is the old simulator I was using, and I'm kind of talking through what I'm doing, which was really to get ready for the check ride I just did. Same kind of procedures, same approaches, all that stuff. And I don't want to spend too much time on this. I just want to show you this was the old simulator that we used, and this was FAA approved, an old GTX simulator. And I want to switch over from that. And this is a G1000 Garmin system, which we're still using, except on one of the other airplanes I'm going to show you. So again, remember, I have to balance professional and supernatural. Professional skills versus supernatural. It's actually very hard to do. It's not easy for me. I tend to be either an all or nothing kind of person. It's very hard to balance those two. So when I had to get back into this after 14 years being away from it, it was extremely difficult. I mean, I really didn't think I was even going to be able to do it. It was so hard. I had it was almost like starting over. I was so rusty. I mean, it was bad. But I had dreams showing me I would be back to normal proficiency again, like I used to. And it would be like a miraculous kind of thing. And that was a year ago I had that dream. And guess what? A few months later, it took a few months, I think from December to April. And when it came back, it really did come back. It was miraculous. God just brought it all back to me, which was a big surprise. So there's a combination of supernatural and natural professional skills. And it did. It came back. I was shocked how well I was able to do. After being away for so long and struggling so hard to get back up to speed again. So, yeah, it actually did come back in a miraculous way. Okay, so I think we're done with that one. I want to hop over now, and which other one am I on? Here's the new simulator. You make sure this thing is actually streaming correctly, and it is. So the new simulator, and by the way, I had a dream that I told a very symbolic interpretation of on a recent video. And in that recent video, I told about a dream of flying a red Mooney aircraft. Funny thing, this simulator This simulator is called a Redbird, and in the dream, all the aircraft instruments, which you see below the screen here, were bright colored, brightly lit up in white, and there was a combination. See the round dials, the round gauges on the left side, and the big screens here on the right. My dream kind of included all of the above. It included the round gauges and the computer screen type things here. And let me just kill the sound because I don't know how well that's coming through with me talking at the same time. So in the dream, funny that I interpret it totally symbolic, and I wouldn't say that there isn't still a symbolic meaning to it. However, it's funny that a month later, approximately a month later, I think, here I am in this new Redbird simulator, and I was in the dream, I was seeing a red small private aircraft, and I start to realize a couple days after this simulator flight here that I just did not long ago, I was like, you know what? That was my dream. It showed upgraded aircraft instruments and a red private airplane. And here I'm flying a Redbird simulator. That's the name of it. The official name is Redbird. And everything's upgraded from what we used to have with that old GTX that you just saw. Um, so here I'm walking through instrument procedures, like if airline pilots, corporate jet pilots, some private pilots that have instrument ratings. This is the kind of stuff you have to focus on, all this kind of thing in here. And you look outside and all you're going to see is clouds, maybe some blue sky. I set the weather so that I could still see something on top. And this was a flight, a simulator flight in Colorado, since that's where I'm going to be. And that was my flight plan. And I wrote all that out so I'd be organized and I would get everything done according to a plan so I could get everything done. And it took 2.9 hours to get the whole thing done and to learn the new simulator procedures. So very complex stuff. Like I say, you can get in a lot of trouble if you haven't been doing this lately. If you have an instrument rating and you haven't been flying with instruments, you can die. You can easily get killed doing this stuff very easily. There's all kinds of things. People get into big problems, or pilots that do not have an instrument rating and end up flying in bad weather that they shouldn't be flying in, and they get themselves into the clouds and they crash because they don't have training to fly in clouds where you can't see. There's all kinds of stuff that happens. Your inner ear will tell you, your inner ear has like a motion sensation feature to it, let's say. And if you're not accustomed to flying like this, your inner ear will tell you you're in a turn to the left, and you're not. You're straight and level. So you try to come out of that turn, and now you're turning right to account for what you thought was a left turn. You think you're straight and level, but the airplane's going to the right. Well, you also have to know that the thing could be climbing or descending. You have to watch your airspeed. You have to listen to the sound of the engine. You have to literally watch all those instruments. And if you don't do that, then you can get in a ton of trouble and end up, like I say, you can crash. You can fly into a mountain. You can fly into a radio tower if you're too low. All kinds of things can happen. You can end up just in a like an out of control descending or a diving spiral because you lost the ability to judge what the airplane is doing. Are you flying straight and level? Are you in a left steep descending turn, like a diving turn? You can rip the wings off by going too fast. All kinds of stuff you can do. So it's very technical training you have to go through. And of course, I went through this years ago, way back. I did this as a kid at the academy, Air Force Academy, on my own privately. I did this. I got my instrument rating in a Mooney, actually. I know you have pictures from way back in that airplane. And so I got my private instrument commercial ratings in Colorado when I was a cadet at the Air Force Academy. I did it privately. It was not part of the Academy's training. And then after that, I got my multi-engine rating I forgot if I was in Florida or Texas when I did that. And then I got my instructor rating several years later after all that. So God had me on the slow plan. He did not have me on the plan that I wanted. I wanted to be a corporate jet pilot, Air Force pilot, which, I've said how that didn't work out for reasons totally beyond my control. But anyway, let's skip off this for now. I want to switch over to the actual flight, which I think was not there. Wasn't there either. Wasn't there. There it is. Okay. This is the actual flight I went on with a friend. And you'll see my wife in the back, I think. You'll see her in a few minutes. These are just still pictures we took, and you'll see the video in a minute here. So this was an actual flight. There we go. There's my wife Janika in the back. And so I was kind of like the co-pilot here, even though it doesn't require a co-pilot. There's my friend on the other side there on my left. He was the actual pilot for this. And my wife took that picture from the back. See we're on the ground. But yeah, always remember when you're going to do a video and upload it, do it sideways, not vertically. But we have other videos here. It was also a perfect day, perfectly clear on top, clouds below. It's just amazing flying above the clouds, all this white fluffy stuff, and you're flying above. And this is very smooth, just like my check ride video that I shot the other day. Air was perfectly smooth, no turbulence at all, nothing. It was totally as smooth as glass. This is a different airplane, a Cirrus SR-20. They're very popular, very nice, kind of expensive, but have very nice upgraded aircraft instruments, flying, navigation, and all that stuff. Also, the only airplane that has a parachute system. If you get into a lot of trouble, engine quits, and you're over terrain that you can't do an emergency landing on, like you can't land in trees, you'll die. If there's not a field or a big, or even a runway to land on, if your engine quits, you can pull that parachute. There are limitations to using that, but the all Cirrus aircraft have parachutes. You know what? I don't remember if the SF-50 Vision Jet has a parachute or not. I don't remember. But anyway, they all have the new ones have auto land. You can push a button, and the thing will land by itself. And that's usually if there's something wrong with a pilot, something really wrong, and a passenger can push that button. It's easily accessible to the passenger. They can push the emergency auto land button, and it will land by itself. So that tells you if these airplanes can land by themselves, and I'm talking these little private airplanes, not just a big jet. No, these little private airplanes can land by themselves. So if that tells you that, what does it also tell you? They can do everything else by themselves. It's just that they're not programmed, they're not set up, they're not approved by the FAA to do autonomous flight with passengers. But I'm telling you, the technology is there to do it easily. With AI and all that stuff, you can easily have an airplane take off by itself, climb up to altitude, navigate from point to point, do an instrument landing, everything totally by itself. It is possible. The technology exists to do that, but we're not. I'll tell you, I would rather be flying the thing myself. I don't want to have someone else. I don't want to have a computer flying it. We have autopilots. We use autopilots all the time. That's very common. In fact, usually once you get past a certain altitude, you turn on that autopilot and you let the airplane fly according to the pre-programmed flight plan, the headings, navigation waypoints, altitudes. You plug all that stuff in, you hit that autopilot button, make sure all the right modes are set for the autopilot, and it will fly itself. But that's not the same as totally autonomous. That's just an autopilot that you pre-programmed, and you turn it on when you want it on, you turn it off when you want it off, and that's not the same as having a computer interface with that and do the entire takeoff and landing and cruising and navigation by itself. But the technology is there, it already exists. So there you can see on my iPad, the navigation app, ForeFlight we call it. That's the name of the app, is ForeFlight. And it has all the charts and everything you need to do a flight plan and to bring up all the instrument approach procedures that you need. That's an instrument approach procedure into the airport going into. So I'll be able to watch the whole time. And if there's anything else I had to get set up, which I didn't have to do, I just now watched the whole thing. Because my friend in the left seat, the pilot seat, was actually doing the flying. I did the radios on this. That was about it. So anyway, professional versus supernatural. I'll tell you, it's not easy to handle that stuff. Okay, let me kill the volume. Okay, because I don't know how well I'm coming through it doesn't sound loud to me, but it might be really loud while I'm trying to talk with the video playing. So I figured you'd like to have something to watch while I'm talking. Beyond all this pilot stuff that I've been doing, I also have been spending a ton of time recently helping someone uh, start up an e-commerce website for selling artistic logo designs for the field that they're in. And this is something that God gave me a couple dreams about this a year ago. And it took a whole year went by before we were really able to get this thing up and running. And now it's up and running, and the website it's published, it's live. You can actually order things from it. And the person I'm helping with all this has their own printing equipment in their house that they can print T-shirts, mugs, um, the big tumblers, hoodies, all that kind of stuff. And they can print those now. And they have already printed some that look really great. So my wife and I have been helping out with some of the artistic designs for that person's store site. And um, I've been doing some artistic work with that. Some things I've had to modify using my iPad sketching app. Some things we just use AI to, well, we use AI to create most of the designs. It's not like my stuff. I'm going to have my own site where I'm going to be selling my own invention business and anything related to that, which I already have the products. A lot of them are already available, and you can find on my Blue Cube Rocket website or on my Sticker Mule website store page. Not my website, but my store page on Sticker Mule, or just other things like that. I already have that stuff, and of course, all my ebooks and digital art on Gumroad that I have, and all these links I post them all over social media, Instagram, Facebook. They are linked off my Supernatural Science website, and some of them are off the Blue Cube Rocket website. But I'm looking at creating a whole new e-commerce online store site where I can put all that stuff together in one place instead of having it spread out, which it's not ideal, but it works. What can I say? So, um, but e-commerce websites are very steep learning curve, very complicated, very complex to, especially if you're starting something up and you're going to do everything manually. You're going to print all your t-shirts and everything manually. That means you have to have mock-ups, you have to set prices, you have to set shipping profiles or delivery options. Every single thing has to be manual uploaded, sizes, colors, and then all the different variations. If you're going to have like white, black, red, gray t-shirts, whatever, blue, all that stuff, you got to set every single thing manually. And that's what I've been working on, actually struggling to get that thing going in the last couple of weeks, putting a full-time effort into that. I tell you, some of that stuff can be aggravating when there's one little glitch that you got to fix on those products, and you can't fix it, and you sit there going crazy trying to figure out how to get this thing to work, or something as simple as having a payment button or a buy button. So, you have the product listed, but there's no buy button. You're like, okay, why is there no buy button? That drove me insane. And I finally realized it had to do with verifying the identity of the site owner, which I unknowingly did when I signed in on the iPad app version of that. It's a Square Online site, by the way, Square Online. And that's where I have this person's site set up, and I'm trying to get my own also set up on that. So I'll have one place where everything can merge all together, all products for everything in the future can go there. So I'm working on that. But in the beginning, tell you what, this is a major headache, especially if you start off and you skip some of the setup options and you'd say, well, I'll do that later. Yeah, well, try coming back and doing that later when you forgot where that thing was. And it doesn't just very easily tell you um, how to go back and fix that one thing, and it screws up everything after that because you didn't do that setup. All the options set up right from the beginning. Banking, connect to your banking account, upload your photo ID and selfie so it can verify you are who you are, and because you're dealing with banking and money changing hands, get me started on that. All this extremely intrusive spying that did not have to happen in the past. But if you work for the government in certain locations, you can commit billions of dollars of fraud, and no one gives a crap until now it's being exposed. And let's not talk about the Epstein thing that's also being exposed. Thankfully, after all this time, it's starting to, you're going to see people, you're going to see a ton of people get wiped out because they've been doing that stuff for decades and it is right there in plain sight, right under everyone's nose. And now you're going to start to see why there's been so many fraudulent elections and just totally immoral, disgustingly evil people in government, and they just stay there forever. They know what they can. You can't get rid of them. Now you're going to start seeing why. Um, you're going to see why they've been there, and they're going to start being removed uh, left and right. It's all starting. So we could talk about the whole thing. This is totally off topic, by the way, but the whole thing with Iran yesterday, I haven't been paying any attention to that at all because I've been doing all this online website setup and the flying stuff. I had to really focus on that the last several days. And my thought is, I used to spend a lot of time totally focused on prophecy. And I already explained more times than I can count that prophecy is the lowest level of the supernatural. It's not in the kingdom of God, it's in the church. And the only thing the church does is it only deals with things that are inside the four walls of a church building. It does not deal with anything at all in the outside world at all. And I've talked about this many, many times. There is a big difference between a prophet giving a prophetic message versus a king making a decree. They're totally different. A king making a decree is on a much, much higher level than a prophet speaking a prophecy. Prophecies don't always happen, but when a king makes a decree, they have more power. Where in the Bible does it say, where the word of a prophet is, there is power? And who can say to him, what are you doing? No, it says it about a king in Ecclesiastes 8. Where the word of a king is, there is power. And who can say to him, what are you doing? Where else does it say in the Bible, like in the book of Esther, that when a king makes a decree, it is final? It says nothing, no such thing about a prophet. It says no such thing about a prophecy at all. Prophecies can evaporate except Bible prophecy. That's all going to happen. But any other kind of prophecy, a prophet speaking a word, all that stuff can vanish in thin air and not happen. If you don't do the right things, it will not happen. And hello, we saw that with Trump. The first, in Trump 2020, that didn't happen. And then it happened, of course, 4 years later. But those are prophecies that vanished into thin air. Sort of. I mean, they came back around now, but some of that stuff we're still waiting for it to happen. I'm just saying, just because someone gives a prophecy, that is not the same as a king making a decree. A prophecy is a very low level thing. A kingly decree is very high level. And then there's emperor's decrees, that's even higher. And you have to say them differently. You already know where to go to find all this. I've explained so many times where you go to find true, actual, real kingdom of God teaching. And outside of the one source that I've talked about, you will not find anything useful at all. And that explains why the church is so completely screwed up, powerless. The world is a disaster because the church has not been doing anything Jesus said or did or commanded us to do. So, okay, look, we're landing the airplane now. This is a pretty good flight, actually. And I like having something to show you besides just me talking all the time. So you're actually going to see us land and taxi around, and you're going to see us on the ground. And then I think we do the takeoff again and go back to our original home base airport. So, yeah, we're coming in here. And you're going to see something out the right window when we land that is directly involved with what I used to do in the Air Force. There's Air Force unmanned aerial vehicle, UAV, on the ground, getting ready to take off. You'll see it when we land. It's an MQ-9 Reaper, the ones that have more weapons payloads than the MQ-1 Predators. It all started with Predators. And then they put missiles on them. It could hold two little missiles. And then the MQ-9 Reaper came. Reaper, like, where do you think they got that name from? Because it carries much larger weapons. And it was more of a weapons platform, not just a surveillance platform. So on the right side, you will see the MQ-9 Reaper right there. Kind of hard to see. That tiny little image, but that's a Reaper. And they fly them out of this airport. I'll just say this is in New York. when I flew with this friend last year. There we landed, and we'll be taxiing off here, and we'll be parking at a really nice, what they call an FBO, fixed base operator. I don't know why they still call them that, because it doesn't really tell you. The average person doesn't know what that is. It's kind of like a place where, when the private jets land, they all park at a place where you walk in and there's stuff there like business type things, the fuel people, and sometimes there's food there. There's coffee machines or whatever, restrooms, all that kind of stuff. It's for passengers too. And passengers come in and walk inside, and then usually outside there, if it's a big airport, you can get accommodations for rental cars, or you can get Uber. Will drive up and pick you up there or whatever. Um, but they call it an FBO if you're a pilot. If you're not a pilot, um, to be honest, I don't know what they call it. You can call it a jet center, I guess. That's not really what they call it, but you can call it that. See there, all I'm talking about right there, the seating area, like they had snacks, all different kinds of drinks, and it was all free at this place too. This is really nice. Millionaire Aviation. Millionaire Aviation. If you find one of those, it was amazing. I don't know if they exist outside of New York. So they were going to taxi back out the big Frontier Airlines. That's how big they look compared to a little 4-seat airplane, 5-seat airplane that we're in. They look massive compared to us. You're staring up at those things with these giant engines. And now we're taking off again, going back to our home base. Again, this is in New York. And yeah, you can see the title of the video. It's a Cirrus SR20 G7. The G7 model is the most updated version of the Cirrus SR20. I did have a dream only a few months ago, that someone would be giving me 1.65 million dollars to buy a much more upgraded version of this, an SR22 Turbo. And that was a dream. I was totally surprised because I knew I would have a PC-12 and a PC-24 for my business, for Blue Cape Rocket, the invention business. But I didn't know that I was also going to have a Cirrus SR22 Turbo. And I don't know all the details for that, of course, because dreams are partial. They don't tell you everything. God only gives you one bit. But I do know that the money's coming from somewhere else. Someone's going to give me the money, and I'm going to send it straight to the place to buy the airplane. So I'll have an SR22T, which you need the turbo version out in Colorado because you can get up to 25,000 feet, of course, with oxygen equipment in these things. And you can fly. They're pretty fast for a little airplane, 200 knots. And you can get way above the mountains, which you kind of need to in airplanes like this, above the clouds, above the mountains, so you can stay out of the turbulence. The lower you are, you can end up with more turbulence down low. So the higher you can climb, and up in the 20,000 foot range, 25,000 feet at the highest for the SR22T, that's great because you can really get above the mountains, which the tops in Colorado, there's a ton of 14ers, they call it, 14,000 foot peaks in Colorado. There's a bunch of them. And so if you can get up to the 20,000 foot range, then you increase your distance between the area where you might run into turbulence. So there we're back home again. And it was a pretty kind of a little windy on the ground. So that's the SR20 that we flew. And okay, so let's turn this thing off and transition back to me again. There, I had to show you something different. So that's me talking about balancing professional skills versus the supernatural, which I'll tell you, it is not easy to do, especially when you have to rely on everyone else's money for everything. It is so aggravating. You have no idea. Phone bill's coming up in a few days. Where's the money for that? Still waiting. The ForeFlight app costs, that's a yearly subscription for that. I really thought we'd have all our stuff, all our money, and be on the way with our house and business starting up and everything. I really thought that was going to happen by now. And guess what? It hasn't yet. So I'll tell you, sometimes it gets extremely aggravating, especially I tend to have, I really like to focus on professional skills, flying, or even the website store e-commerce setup. all that stuff. I like to do professional things. When I'm in that mode, I like to just keep going. And when I have to rely on someone else's money to pay all of it, and it's not cheap, I just feel like I want to go full speed ahead, and I can't because the money from other people, it's either not unlimited, it's very restrictive, it's very limited. Um, it's just so I can't do that. Tell you, I'd make a lot more progress if I had a ton of more money to do all these things, a lot more progress. But that's anyway, you already know that the Supernatural Entrepreneur series that I've been writing, we're on episode 95. That tells all the reasons why God puts some person in. Wow, that was loud. Why God puts a person in those very uh, unpleasant, austere, horrible situations with no money, which usually what it comes down to is no money. The whole wilderness thing is all about not having money. That's the whole thing. That's what it's all about. And let me just go back and see if there was a video that I did not show the rest of here that maybe I can switch back over and maybe you can watch the rest of that. Oh yeah, I can flip this one back on and you can watch more of this one simulator video that I started showing you and then I switched over. Yeah, you can watch a little more of that. Give you something to watch besides me talking. So, and it's, that's funny because, okay, sometimes I'll do a thing like when I did the simulator flight just a few days ago. In the back of my mind, I was kind of wondering, did I have a dream about this? Like, how do I felt I knew I was supposed to do it. I knew I was supposed to, but then I still wanted to know, how do I know it's God and not just me having a feeling? How do I know I didn't just make that up? And so it took me a couple days and I realized, the red Mooney dream that I did a whole video about here, interpreted it very differently. I realized, that was the dream showing me, yes, I'm going to be flying a Redbird simulator and with upgraded instruments. And so then I realized, okay, so God did tell me this. He just told me in a way that I didn't recognize what the heck he was saying at first. And so let's turn the volume back. Bring me down to, I got to first set up my 9,000 foot. Yeah, we started 9,000 feet. So I'm going to go vertical speed, nose down. I'm setting up the autopilot. There we're in I'm going to go 700 foot per minute descent, and I'm going to pull the power back to about, I'm going to pull it back to there for now. I'm going to switch hands, actually. I like to come back to at least 17. Now you can see mountains up there. We're setting up for an approach to landing at Denver Centennial Airport in Colorado. Denver Centennial is in the south part of Denver. It's a pretty active, busy executive jet type. We're going to stay in the holding pattern. We're going to descend down to airport. It does have a lot of training setup at some point here. Like private pilot training with small planes. Has a ton of that. So we're going to have to. Pretty busy. Anything in Denver is very busy. Yeah, we're going to have to load the procedure here. So I like practicing in Denver area, Colorado Springs, Denver, all that, because that's where I'm going to be let's try that again. For a long time. So, and I'll be flying out of there for real. So I want to get familiar with all these procedures at those airports. So Centennial, Jefferson County, all that stuff, Colorado Springs. I want to get familiar with that now. So when I get there for real, I'll already have experience flying the approaches in the simulator and flying in that area in the sim. That's a really good pilot tip, by the way. If you're going to fly in an unknown or an unfamiliar place, this isn't unfamiliar to me, but if you're going to fly in an unfamiliar place, start off by doing the simulator first, if you have access to one like this. And I have another one where I did a simulator flight into Burlington, Vermont, and they have pretty big mountains there. Nothing like Colorado, but they're pretty big. They're like 4,000, 5,000 feet above ground. That's pretty big. In Colorado, the above ground level is bigger than that. But still, that's a pretty big terrain out there. So I did approaches back last year. I was hoping to fly there in the fall, but didn't have the money, so I didn't get to see all the flying colors, the leaves, beautiful stuff. I didn't get to see that.
Right here. Got it. We're 9,000. Okay, good. Okay, now I'm going to set up my approach vectors for XP and do the next approach.
Okay, by the way, you can find all this on my other YouTube channel, CRM Space Jets, on YouTube. And you can see, let me just transition this thing back off here and here. So you can see some of the videos I posted. I have other videos that I do not have publicly loaded or listed, but any flying videos in the future, I'm probably going to put them right there on that other YouTube channel. CRM Space Jets. It only has 2 subscribers, which, like I say, I'm not trying to get a lot of traffic going there at all. Some of my videos have pretty good numbers. I mean, when I say pretty good, 160 views on a video that I post is pretty good. 75, that's pretty good. One has almost 270, because that was an air show I took videos of. You know what? We could turn that on. I could show you that, because then now you can start to see something else kind of fun. And let's hit the play button on that. We have to drop the volume down. Yeah. That was a big air show they do every year, Batavia, New York. And that was a lot of fun. It wasn't the first time I've been to one of those, but I really had a good time there. And I was helping out with a flight school that I have become familiar with out there. So I was like a volunteer. And let's see. Let me skip ahead here a little bit. Let's see, what else do we have? I don't remember who was flying in what order. Oh, this was the F-16 demo. Very loud, not so much here, but extremely loud in person and very fast. I actually did fly in the back seat as a kid at the Air Force Academy 4 times in an F-16. Unfortunately, didn't get to be the pilot of one, which is really what I wanted. Because of a very, very, very minor little medical thing that they would not waive me on. The FAA didn't care. First, we're fine with the FAA, but with the Air Force, of course, being extremely strict, they would not give me a waiver. So this was the airplane right here, the F-16, that I wanted to fly. That was my whole thing in life back then. I wanted to fly one of those. Well, at least I could say I flew in the back seat as a cadet 4 times. And I did actually get to fly the thing, but actually the pilot did actually let me fly. There were different pilots for each time at 2 different Air Force bases in the U.S. So I did actually get to fly it a little bit. But that's unfortunately all I can say about that. So now you see why I'm really looking forward to owning my own private jet and being the co-pilot of it. Because it's a whole area of life that I didn't get to do. I mean, there's so many things I wanted to do. God just slammed the door on so many things with me that it just kind of was very disappointing back then. And of course, back then, I also didn't realize he had a calling for me to be an inventor in the real life version of Tony Stark. I didn't know that. I didn't know anything about that back then as a cadet at the academy or at any point in the Air Force. God didn't start revealing that stuff to me until I got serious about asking, what am I really doing here, since none of that stuff worked out. I didn't know anything about the whole invention stuff until I got serious about asking God, what am I doing here, after I get out of the Air Force. So there's an F-22, a P-51, and an F-16. The last real base I was assigned to in the Air Force was Langley Air Force Base in Virginia, that's the home, one of the bases where they have F-22s. So I saw F-22s all the time, every day. and I got to see that F-22 demo they do every single day in the Air Force. Okay, that's an exaggeration. Not every single day, but it seems I saw that demo so many times. Just walk outside and they're doing the show to practice. And so I saw all kinds of stuff. It's loud. The F-16 is loud, but the F-22 is even louder. So anyway, it was a lot of fun to watch that. I would have much rather been flying it, not watching it. But anyway, so be it. Let's see, they're going to do the break here on the next pass somewhere. I'll kind of zoom forward a little bit. I'm trying to give you something else to watch today. So, just to show there's a whole other side to me that I talk about all the time, but you don't really get to see it. And not that you're so much seeing me doing it here, but in the other videos, of course. But I really loved this air show. I had such a great time. And this was back in 2024 in New York. And I'll tell you what, it was not the warmest day at all. It was actually kind of cold. I'm trying to remember what the date was on this. I think it was like in the August-September range. I forgot. There we go. There's a break. All right. All right. So what else do we have?
Yes.
The F-22 did a little bit of a show before he left. Yeah, I kind of forgot about that part. You can find, like I say, you can find this video, on CRM Space Jets on YouTube. That's my channel, my other channel. So you don't have to watch this little tiny version of it here. You can find the real thing. I don't know. Maybe I'll put the link at the bottom of my YouTube video where I post today's live thing here. Yeah, so you can see the rest of this over there. I think I'll scroll ahead a little bit just to see what else do we have. All right, I'm going to let you go find that if you want to. We had all these guys, these professional airshow performers, doing stuff with airplanes that it's kind of like, how can you even do that? Imagine being the pilot inside of there and those kind of G-forces flipping around like that. That's kind of crazy. I've never done anything like that. Yeah, they had the helicopter doing all kinds of stuff too. That's the Red Bull team. Red Bull helicopter, I think the airplane might not have been Red Bull, might have been someone else. I don't know. Yeah, you can find the whole video on my other channel. I'm going to fast forward a little bit here. Alright, what is this? I'm going to have the F-16 demo twice. I don't remember how that happened, but anyway. I guess I copied and pasted them. I will say they had a great night air show with all kinds of pyrotechnics. That was really amazing. More impressive in real life than just watching it on the video. But it was amazing. All the stuff that they're doing. Yeah, it gets kind of great. Then they had all the UAV stuff in the back, or the drone stuff in the background. All that. So I think I'm going to quit this thing here pretty quickly here so we can finish up today's video. And like I said, I really want to just show you something totally different. Oh yeah, there we go. You could feel the heat off that thing when they did all that. these fireball things on way off on the other end of the runway. You could feel the heat when they lit those off. From like a mile away, you could feel the heat. Okay, PC-12 right there. The military version of the PC-12, that's the one I'm going to own when I have the invention business started. All the World War II airplanes were there. It was kind of, like I said, not the nicest day. A lot of old World War II airplanes, lots of stuff. And it's finishing soon. I started off as a cadet in Civil Air Patrol as a teenager. That's how I got started flying. They're the P-51s. Love to fly in one of those someday. Encore Aviation, a flight school that I know something about. There, you can see me right there, pretending to remember my instructor skills that I had totally forgotten a year and a half ago. Totally forgotten. That's the airplane again I showed you earlier from the previous video. And that guy right there on the right side, standing next to that woman, is 100-year-old. There he is, 100-year-old Air Force, well, actually, Army Air Corps veteran. They used to fly in B-17. So there's me talking about airplanes, flying airplanes with people that have no flying experience. Yep, that was me helping out with Encore Aviation. All right, let's move on from that.
Folks in your community to stand up in a big way with that applause. We get closer to that in about 15 minutes.
All right. This is almost going to finish up here. Me trying to tell someone a few things about private little airplanes. I tell you, it was really awkward being a former instructor and not being a current instructor, because I had to walk away from that stuff years ago. I thought about trying to become an instructor again to get all that back, and it just got to the point where I felt like, you know what, it's not going to work. I kind of wished I could have, but at the same time, I just didn't feel like God was trying to tell me to do that. It was just a lot of effort, a lot of work that was going to take, and a lot of money that I really didn't have access to. I really didn't think that was going to work. So, and long term, it didn't really make sense. I felt like I was better off not going back to all that again. So, anyway, so I am not currently an instructor, and I guess that's okay. I can only focus on so many things at a time. It's really too much, way too much. And when you're an instructor, you are responsible for students. And if you can't focus on all that stuff like I couldn't, and I was so rusty, I had to relearn all this stuff from 14 years of being away from it. It was impossible. I couldn't keep up with all that. There was just no way I could do it. Let me turn that off and transition. Yeah, I just couldn't keep up with all that. So it turned out being the kind of thing where I had to just say, you know what, I wish I could go back to that, but it wasn't practical, like very not practical. So again, balancing professional skills with the supernatural, extremely hard to do, really, really hard to do. And somehow I have to do all that stuff. So here you have it. So that's some of, I guess you could say that's more like, okay, here's the reality of the situation with, I talk about flying a lot. I have a ton of flying dreams, and now you see the real thing to a certain extent with me in it. So it's not just talk anymore, it's the real thing. And then, of course, the online website stuff, the store page and all that I'm setting up for someone, that I don't have anything to show you today. I don't think it's a good idea to publish all that that I'm helping someone out with yet. It's not that the store site isn't up and running, it is. But if it got, not that I get a lot of publicity with this, but the person is not quite ready to start mailing stuff out, products. So I don't want to publish that or even tell you what it is yet. Later on, I'd be happy to do that because I could show you, okay, this is what my wife and I and someone else helped put together. And so you can see more real life professional skills that I love to use. And you can't do supernatural stuff all the time, which sounds strange. It sounds very strange. But if God has a calling for you to make tons of money and have a business for reasons that I've explained in the past, especially in my Supernatural Entrepreneur series, if He has a calling for you to do that, then you got to have both. You got to have the supernatural and you got to have the professional business skills. You got to have all that stuff. And it's not easy to do all that. It's very hard to balance all that, to know where the balancing point is supposed to be, how to know when to switch from one to the other. And when you're all focused on one thing and then you have to switch to the other, it is really hard to switch gears sometimes. In my head, it's very hard to switch gears um, because of my personality and just the way I am. It's really hard to switch gears and go from one to the other. So I think it's easier now, a little easier, but it's not that easy. It's taken a long time to get to the point where I could go from one to the other. Um, so anyway, so I want to do something very practical today, talk about something that maybe you're not doing any of these things, but you may have something that relates to what I'm talking about here in a different way. And so I'm just this is just me talking. I'm not trying to really, not trying to teach anything, not trying to preach anything, just me talking. That's all it is. So, um, anyway, I think I have accomplished everything I needed to or wanted to today with this. And I can say that my, well, now you know where all my online digital art is. You can just go on my Supernatural Science website, and I have links to that stuff there. So you can see the digital art that I've done that I'm going to put on my own newer store page, I think, when I do that, and products like the T-shirt designs for the invention company and all that. I have all that stuff. It's available already. A lot of that is, and I have other products that I haven't been able to put together. Just not yet. It's just not the time. I try selling stuff and no one ever buys anything at all. I have to give stuff away and I don't have money to be able to do that. It's just like nobody cares. Nobody cares about the invention. Nobody cares about the technology, the stuff that God gave me in dreams. Nobody cares about the story. I'm just telling you, nobody cares. So I've tried selling stuff many times and not one person buys anything. Zero. It's a big freaking who cares. Nobody cares. That's how I know that no one is tuned into anything I'm talking about because they don't take anything seriously. They don't put their money down. They don't buy anything. They don't believe in anything I say. How do you know if someone believes in anything? If you don't believe, you don't take action. And people do not believe in anything I'm talking about with the invention or anything. They don't believe because they will not do what I say. They will not do it. And I've been watching this for I wouldn't say the last whole 11 years, but the majority of that, ever since I did start selling stuff, nobody will do anything with what I have at all. They just don't care. Which I'll tell you what, by the time this does happen and you see the proof that this really is real, you're going to be so far behind and so late, you'll never be able to catch up. Already you can't catch up. Why do I have 95 episodes and counting in Supernatural Entrepreneur Series? Why? To show how much goes in behind the scenes to make this happen. And if you're not doing any of that stuff, you're so far behind, it's hopeless. You will never catch up, ever. I don't care how many 3 to 6 a.m. early morning prayers you do, you will not catch up. It is impossible. You can only go so fast. And God has a 20-year process. If you're not doing the right things during those 20 years, you get nothing out of it. You're not going to be a full sonship with all the Marvel abilities. I had a dream. I'm supposed to be talking about that again, too, by the way. Like a serious discussion about that. I had a dream just a few days ago that it hasn't been the right time yet for that, but I will be talking about that again at some point. I don't know when, but I'm just saying there is so much that goes into this. If you're not keeping up with this and you act like you don't care, you want to follow this childish, immature, powerless, dead church nonsense out there, you'll never make it. You're never going to make it. It's a full 20 years. You cannot cut that 20 years short. You can't do it. God will not allow you to cut the 20-year process short. You cannot do it. I don't care how many early mornings you do and how much fasting you do. It is not possible. He has a timeline that you cannot change at all. And if you're not doing the right things during that, you're never going to get there. I'll tell you, you're gonna know whether or not you've reached sonship or not. If you cannot do all those Marvel abilities that I talk about at will without praying to God, no, you do them at will, like Elijah, Isaiah, not Isaiah. He didn't have anything that I know of. Um, Elijah, Moses, Joshua, even King David, and all those. If if you don't have abilities like that you can manifest at will whenever you want, you don't have sonship. You don't have it. You can't change the molecular substance of something like water into wine. If you can't do that by thinking, you don't have sonship. If you can't transport yourself from one place to another instantly at will, you don't have sonship. If you can't have power over the elements of creation, lightning, um, all that stuff, then you don't have sonship. Uh, that's why I make such a big deal about that in my books, writings, everything, videos. Um, it, and God isn't going to give you that if you don't go through the right process. So that's why I make such a big deal about this stuff. And I have to balance all that along with all these professional skills. And I'm like, how in the world is one person going to do that? I have no idea. I don't know, but I haven't reached full sonship. I did make an error in my counting. I thought my entering the sonship development stage was in 2018. It was not. It was in 2020. So guess what? You have to add another year and a half to me reaching full 20 years. I thought I was there. I thought I estimated 2018 correctly. It was not. I was surprised as I went back and I found the dream. It was 2020 in June 24th, 2020, I think was the date. And that was the dream that showed me I had now entered the sonship 13-year point, which I already talked about. I explained that whole thing, but it wasn't 2018, it was 2020. So unfortunately, I have about another year and a half to go. Um, anyway, so that's not too fun. With that, that has nothing to do with the invention. It has no bearing on the timeline for that at all. It's only about supernatural Marvel abilities. And that doesn't mean you can't manifest them ahead of time. You can, but you don't have full access to them until you are a fully mature son at the 20-year point, if you go through the right 20-year process. A lot of ifs there. And so you can manifest some things early, a little bit, but it's limited. It's limited. How do I know? Because I have not one time instantly transported myself from one place to another. In dreams, yeah, but not in real life. We're talking in real life. I have power over lightning. I can turn invisible in dreams, but in real life, I have not done that yet. Walking through walls, I haven't done that yet in real life. But in dreams, all that stuff. Moving things with the mind, like the Force in Star Wars, that's biblical. That came from God, did not come from devils. That I have not been able to do that in real life. But God has been, like I said before, God has been training and to multiply things. God has been training me in the natural to make things come to me. Usually it's just money that I need, but it's been physical stuff too in some cases. Um, so he's been training me in the natural to build up to that point. But the level of faith that you have to work to create, you have to work to develop is very high, and things can kick you out of that instantly. Just like Peter trying to walk on water. He started off good, but you can get kicked out of that instantly if you don't develop properly. And you'll try to manifest something and it'll fall flat, just like with Peter in the water. And it's a very steep training, very, very, very hard training process to learn, to go through all that. And I've talked about this in the past, and I've pointed you to the only place you're going to get that from. So anyway, we are now at 1 hour and 4 minutes. And so I really am trying to give you an appreciation for how hard it is to go from supernatural to practical professional skills and back and forth, do both of those to keep up with all that. I think I made my case here today and hopefully gave you something fun to watch along the way. And but it's really, really hard. It's not easy to do all this stuff at all. Not at all. So okay, now having said that, I have to get back to professional stuff again. I have to get back to this online store e-commerce site that I've been working on. I have a lot of work to do to keep that thing. There's still a lot of stuff that has to be done. It's up and running, yes, but there's a lot of stuff that has to be added to it now. New products, new designs, new everything, different types of things that have to be added. and there's a deadline. There's a big deadline coming. It's only a few days away. So um, that's my primary focus right now. And I just managed to break away for an hour to do this because I had to get back to doing something here. Also, both got to balance in both, like I said. So with that, I think this is a good time to stop. An hour and 5 minutes. So I will come back soon, hopefully, whenever, and talk to you again. Okay, God bless. Thanks for watching, and thank you for supporting with donations. Obviously, you know that I need it. So thank you very much. God bless, and talk to you soon.